This is the Losses Become Gains podcast, the podcast that talks about and normalizes the complexities of grief, life after loss, and all this entails. I'm your host, Tara Accardo. I'm a grief and transformational life coach, and I'm here to serve you guidance, tangible tools, and inspiration to help you cultivate a more meaningful, intentional, and beautiful life. A life where you'll discover gains from your losses and so much more. I'm so grateful you're here. Let's dive right in. Welcome back to the Losses Become Gains podcast. I hope you are doing so well today. In this episode, I want to talk about the importance of creating a routine because having a routine is a really fantastic thing, whether or not you're journeying through grief. So your gain today will be to understand how and why a routine is so critical, especially for those who are grieving. And we'll dive into the reasons for this and how exactly a solid routine can help you in your grief journey. And the goal here today is also to spark some inspiration for you to take with you that you can hopefully implement in your own routine in case that needs a little bit of love right now. And now, this is really important. I want to kick this off by saying that if you don't have a somewhat set routine already, or one that, let's say you didn't create, let's say it's a product of the fact that you just have to get up and go to work, right? Or you have to get up and maybe take care of kids or take the dog out or whatever it is. That is all a natural part of life. But I want to take this a step further, and I want you to come out of that box a little bit. And I want for you to create a routine that has you in mind too and sparks joy for you. And I want to stress the importance of taking this one step at a time. Quite literally creating a routine with just one step. If anything more than that feels overwhelming to you right now, which is absolutely okay if so. Because especially in the early stages of grief, or if you are listening to this and your loss is particularly recent, this whole topic can feel like a lot, so bear with me here. Just take this in today and make it work for you. Okay, so let's get into some of the reasons that a routine is super beneficial. First and foremost, especially in the grief space, a routine can bring you back to the present moment a little bit. And when you fill your routine with things that are really beneficial to you and are things that make you happy or spark that joy I always talk about, you're more likely to want to get up and do them, right? And do them well instead of wanting to go back to bed or, just sitting there saying I don't want to do this. I can't do this. The second reason I love a routine for grievers is it can give you a little structure or semblance of control in a time that can feel very out of control, as bereavement can often feel. When we're in the process of losing something or someone, or if we already have, that loss can really strip away a lot of our sense of control. We feel life in general is out of control, and we might wonder how we are ever going to get that control back. Now, when I talk about control, I want to make this clear too. I don't mean control in a bad way here, because control can sometimes have a negative connotation. It can sound controlling, right? So I'm not trying to imply that we all need this crazy tight amount of control in our lives and are trying to control every second of it. Not at all. But I actually want to detour really quick here and address this sense of control really quickly. Humans generally like to have a sense of control in their lives. Having control over our environment and circumstances can provide us a little sense of security and predictability, which can reduce anxiety and stress, which we're going to talk more about in a moment. Now, the degree to which we desire control can vary, of course, right? Some people may prefer to have a higher level of control over their lives, while others might be more comfortable with a little less control and more flexibility. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle there somewhere. But the point is, no matter where you fall on the spectrum, if you are consistently feeling emotions that are in line with confusion, feeling lost, uncertainty, fear, and a lack of predictability, and maybe some instability, a routine is something I really encourage you to take seriously. And when I say take it seriously, I'm not saying that this can't ebb and flow and change as you see fit. In fact, that's perfectly okay. In a way, I almost encourage that. And sometimes life happens, right? We have to kind of go with the flow here. You're making these things work for you. Always remember that. But also remember that it has been shown through studies that it can take a minimum of 21 days to form a habit. So let's say you start this routine and it's a little rocky at first, but you feel like it's really just not working or not sticking. Keep tweaking it if you feel that that's necessary. If it's something in your gut that just doesn't feel right, or it's not bringing some semblance of relaxation and decompression to your life, consider making some changes. But if you feel like it's more that you're kind of maybe in your head with it, or you're just not really giving it enough of a fair chance when the steps are reasonable enough and are things you might enjoy, be honest with yourself and make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to really get accustomed to it. So whether this is, a new workout regime, or maybe you're trying to start meditation can be a tough thing to start, right? It's amazing and I highly recommend it, and more to come on that. But, just throwing out some examples here. So we got to allow ourselves to really, get into it. And it can take some time to really feel like this routine, these things you're doing consistently, are positively affecting your life. But we got to give it time to sink in, right? All right, so reason number 3, if we lost track here at all, reason number 3 that I love a good routine is for improved productivity, focus, and concentration. Having a routine helps you become more efficient with your time and reduces the likelihood of procrastination. So why is this important? Well, there could be a few reasons for this. First, and I would say most noteworthy, there are so many decisions we might try and procrastinate on or really avoid altogether when we're grieving. So whether it is some paperwork that we have to do, something with maybe like a funeral or memorial arrangements, something with, someone's estate or something like that. These are all things I've personally gone through. Another aspect of this is what we might have to experience at work. So let's say we have to go back to work fairly soon after our loss, which many of us do. It can feel nearly impossible to focus, feel productive, or like you're even doing a good job. Now, working as we're grieving is a whole different topic and a whole different rabbit hole to go down that we will get into on this podcast. But what I want to get at here is that a good morning routine, especially that sets us up for success, absolutely has the ability to improve this cognitive function, to de-stress us a little bit, and enable that focus and presence within us that much better. So perhaps it's setting a consistent alarm. That is your time to get up in the morning, and you stick to that come hell or high water. Maybe you follow that up with a morning cup of tea or coffee or whatever makes you happy. And you really sit with that for a moment. If it's a hot beverage, maybe you feel the warmth of the cup in your hands or something, right? You take some of the deepest breaths that you'll take all day and close your eyes and really take in that moment in time. Maybe reading a few pages of a book, whatever genre speaks to you. But, maybe one that perhaps inspires you or gets you thinking out of the box a little bit, just to come out of your grief just a little bit. Or maybe it's a fiction book that distracts you for a few minutes, because that's okay too. But things like these are so beneficial because it allows us to tap into that presence that I mentioned earlier. It grounds us. It brings positivity and a sense of calm to our morning when the morning can be especially difficult for grievers, because we're constantly having to wake up and be reminded of what we've lost. And this can be stressful and exhausting. Now, I know this can be difficult. I'm sure there are parents out there that maybe have to get kids to school or something else. So again, when you're integrating these things in, don't put pressure on yourself. Maybe just get up like 5 or 10 minutes earlier, right? Like I know there's so many people, and I know this because they're in my personal life where they're already getting up at like 5 or 6 a.m., right? They're like, I can't get up any earlier. So I just want to acknowledge you if you are there right now And again, I hear you say it all the time. It's about those baby steps, and it's about those small integrations into our life at first. Now, this segues us into reason number 4 of why I love a good routine. As we just alluded to, it can help us reduce stress and anxiety. Knowing what you need to do each day can reduce this semblance of uncertainty and increase a sense of control, as we talked about earlier, which ultimately helps reduce stress and anxiety. So as part of your routine, perhaps it's just, a 5 to 10 minute meditation to start off your morning. Maybe it's just a simple breathing exercise, but it's one where you put all of your focus into it and make those breaths really intentional. And going a step further, maybe this breath work is beyond just your morning, right? I talk a lot about morning and evening routines, but think about your whole day. Maybe make this a part of your afternoon routine too. Maybe you make it a point to go on like just a 10-minute walk at your lunch break or something like that, right? If you can do it. Grief or not, if we're in the middle of a workday, many of us are not really typically pausing, coming out of our work for a bit, taking a deep breath, and giving ourselves a mental break. We have to do that, grief or not. Again, we have to give ourselves permission to do that and actually do it. Physical activity is a huge part of connecting with ourselves and our surroundings again. And listen, I want to pause here and just acknowledge, even going to the grocery store or taking your dog for a walk can feel like a huge lift and a struggle when you are in the deep throes of grief. I know, I have been there. So if that is where you're at right now, again, baby steps. Just work this in however you can right now. But right now is the key to that. We've talked about this in a previous episode. But with all of these feelings that you're feeling, or if you are just in a particularly dark place, remind yourself, this is where I'm at right now. Because remember, that right now part of it brings you back into the moment and kind of gives you hope and assures you that this is not where you're going to be living. This is a moment in time. All right, so I have a few more reasons as to why simply having a routine and making all of this a part of it is so important, especially when it comes to this physical activity aspect. So reason number 5 is that a routine can improve our health and overall well-being. So mental health is a key aspect of this, and we've talked about some of this already, just with the benefits of meditation and breath work and, again, bringing ourselves back down a little bit. But following a daily routine can also help you establish healthy habits. So whether this is in the form of regular exercise, and I'm talking a quick walk here. We don't need to go and do anything crazy yet, right? Or, just effort toward creating a balanced diet for yourself. These are all steps for us to create an environment where our overall health and physical and mental well-being are at the forefront. And let me tell you, there is no better time to make that a priority than when you're grieving. With this process, with grief being so emotionally taxing, we're typically more prone to brain fog. Our immune system could be compromised more due to stress, and it can increase our chances of getting sick, for example. Little is more important than your health. And I also just want to friendly remind you here that by you prioritizing yourself and your health, that will positively affect other people around you. Whether it's a child or children that you still have to show up for, or, just a partner that you love deeply, or whoever it is in your life that you want and need to show up for, a routine and all of the benefits this can provide will help ensure that you can do that to the best of your ability. And so they can show up for you too. All right, we're almost to the end here. Reason number 6 that a routine is so amazing is for better sleep. A consistent daily routine can help regulate your body's internal clock, which makes it easier for you to fall asleep at night and wake up in the morning. And we've already talked about some morning routine options here, so let's look at nighttime routine really quick. So maybe a part of your evening routine is eating at or around the same time so you can depend on that consistency for your mind, but also so your body is dependent on that consistency as well. Maybe it's lighting a candle or incense and winding down by reading a book or doing a meditation. Maybe it's watching your favorite show or a show that makes you laugh a little, but making sure you turn it off by a certain time. Because remember, light from the screen and that stimulation from TV has been known to interfere with our sleeping patterns. And that goes for social media too. I should mention that. Now, I know TV can actually feel like it helps you sleep. I have definitely been that girl, and honestly, I still am some days, I have to admit, but it can affect our REM sleep, that stage of sleep where we really get the most rest. So just something to think about here. Maybe it's a nighttime routine where you have a favorite face cream or a mask and you look forward to putting that on and feeling the cleansing effects on your skin. Maybe putting a little bit of lavender oil somewhere on your body or, spraying some around your bed to evoke this amazing, beautiful sensation of relaxation. Perhaps it's having the same bedtime, or at least trying to have the similar, same, consistent bedtime each night. And remember, so much of this is just the effort that we put in. It might not always work. We might have our off days. Everybody has their off days, grief or not, right? But it's just the fact that we're trying. That in and of itself should be celebrated. I want to celebrate you here for trying. And lastly, on that note, reason number 7 that a routine is truly the best is because it can give you a greater sense of accomplishment. Now, yes, I know you're like, seriously, Tara, I'm like accomplishing something with a routine here. Yes, absolutely. Like I mentioned, we want to celebrate the little steps that we're taking here. When you have a routine and you're able to stick to it, even if it's not 100%, but you're still making the effort and putting in the work to find what works best for you, you can feel a little sense of accomplishment and satisfaction at the end of each day. You might kind of feel like more complete in the morning. You might feel more motivated in the morning. You might feel more, complete and like, I can bring myself down a little bit at night and kind of close out the day in this really lovely way. I know this sometimes seems like a little comfort in the grand scheme of things when we're so desperately missing those that we've lost or loved, whatever our loss might be. But so much of this idea of routine is a powerful coping mechanism amidst the pain and the disorientation of a loss. And in conjunction with our routine, whatever this might look like now, one thing I think is really important to do here is to acknowledge something that we're grateful for each and every day, and something that was perhaps a highlight of the day. So I encourage you to check in with yourself a little bit here. Either just do this like mentally within your own mind or literally write this down. This is something I actively do every single day. I love to do this once in the morning, not long after I wake up. I do it usually after my workout, and once before I go to bed. So ask yourself, what is something you're grateful for coming out of the day? Is it being here and being alive today? And remember, it can be small things. It doesn't have to be anything like crazy existential if you're not feeling very much like that right now. But again, is it just the fact that you're alive and you're like, okay, I'm here right now. That's beautiful. Go ahead and write that down. Was it watching one of your favorite shows or movies? Write that down. Is it going to get coffee or a treat with a friend? Jot it down. The list could go on and on here. But whether or not you write it down or say it out loud or even in your head to yourself, the idea is really to just acknowledge it and know that it's possible and know that there are little bits of hope and positivity out there. So with all of this being said, I can't express enough how beneficial and helpful it has been in my own journey and in the journeys of so many grievers that I've spoken to who have also experienced loss, to have a solid routine that brings them comfort and something that they can depend on. And if you're not giving this a try already and maybe don't have like a really solidified routine, especially both in the morning and evening, your unofficial homework here today is to give that a go and maybe try putting one in place. Grief and the bereavement process can feel very overwhelming, and you might find yourself changing your mind a lot on things or just feeling a bit unsettled, kind of like no matter what you try. Trust me, That was me. So I want to speak to you right now if this is where you're at or if you find yourself there. But remember, just as in that process, the routine forming process can also take a little bit of time. Give yourself permission to feel and embrace that just as you would your grief, just as you would your emotions. And I promise you, with some time and with the right routine for you, you are going to feel a world of difference. And I want to stress this one more time. Start small. I am talking one step here and go from there. Then when you're feeling more comfortable with that consistency, maybe add one more thing and then perhaps one more. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't have to end up being some crazy 8-step regimen. Do not feel the need to do that to yourself. We want to have you enjoy this, right? We don't want it to feel like a chore. The goal is simply consistency, something you enjoy and a process you can trust in a time that feels very untrustworthy and very out of control in your life. And soon enough, other aspects in your life will no doubt follow suit. That, my friend, is where I leave you today. I really do hope that this topic of a routine and chatting about the importance of it and giving you some examples has maybe even sparked something in you to go out and create this beautiful routine for yourself. As always, I thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Have the best day ever, and I will see you in the next episode. I am sending you a huge thank you for tuning into today's episode, my friend. I'm so grateful you're here and for the steps you're taking to heal your heart, open your mind, fulfill your soul, learn, grow, and evolve, and move through this crazy thing called life in big, beautiful, impactful ways. Visit lossesbecomegains.com for my blog, more coping tools, ways to work with me, and so much more. And be sure you're following along on Instagram and Facebook at Losses Become Gains Podcast. I love seeing new faces, meeting new people, hearing your stories, and supporting you however I can. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and share this episode or this podcast with someone who could use it too. And remember to always keep asking yourself, how will I turn my losses into gains today? I'll catch you in the next episode.